Hi, I'm Margaret, and thank you so much for joining me here on the Gardening Me. This is part 2 of a harvest video that I took. That was only supposed to be one video, but it ended up going on a little longer than I wanted, so I decided to split it up into 2. The first part went up a couple of days ago, and that was all about harvesting the beans that I had sown in early June, which I also have a video on the sowing, and that's going to be linked down below. This video is everything else I harvested on that day, so I hope you enjoy. So now we're going to go on to the eggplant. So I prefer Asian eggplant over the traditional Italian eggplant. I probably will grow Italian eggplant at some point in time, especially those little kind of light purplish ones. They're so cute. But at this point in time, I'm sticking to the Asian ones just because I find that I really like their texture better. They're a bit firmer, they're not as watery, they have significantly fewer seeds, and they're very tender. When I cook with them, I don't peel them or anything like that. And I'm partial to Thai curries and things like that, and they're perfect for that. So let's get picking. This one here is White Princess. Isn't it gorgeous? I have 3 more varieties. Here's the Tai Long Green. I'm actually not going to pick that yet. I'm going to let it grow a tiny bit more, I think. And here is the traditional one that I started off growing way back. The first successful eggplant that I grew, and this is Ping Tung. And here's a variety I tried a couple of years ago and really enjoyed, similar to Ping Tung, but a little tiny bit longer. And that is called Farmer's Long. Right beside the eggplant, look at this. These are pepperoncino peppers, and this plant is loaded. And the great thing about pepperoncino peppers is that this is how you want to harvest them. You don't want to wait until they get red or anything like this, because you harvest them like this, and they're a mildly spicy pepper. And what I do is I pickle them, and then they go amazing in salads. And these are what I call the Olive Garden peppers. So when you go to the Olive Garden and you get that salad with those pickled peppers in there, that's what these are. Amazing. So let's get picking. I only have 1 plant of these, but oof, that is going to be more than enough for at least 1, maybe more jars of pickled peppers. Whoops. Oops. There. Do 1 more. Oh my God. Oh. These don't get much bigger than this, but they do size up a little bit. So I think I harvested maybe a dozen. I think I'll leave the rest on the plant to get a tiny bit bigger. The other peppers in here are not yet ready to pick. I have Anaheim. Ooh, these are one of my favorites, but you can see all those peppers underneath there. They're not ready yet. These get huge. These actually are also picked, or I picked them at the green stage, but they will easily get twice this size. So I'm just going to leave them. The other one that I am going to pick is actually very similar to the pepperoncino, and this is the shishito pepper, and these are frying peppers. You basically blister them in a very hot skillet with some oil, and then you just sprinkle a little bit of salt on them, and they're an amazing little appetizer. So I have a few here, maybe about 10 or so, so I think I'll pick those as well. Okay, I think that's about good. I'm gonna leave the rest to stay on here and just size up a bit more. Now also in this bed is a Reisentraube tomato, and it's actually the tomato plant that is doing the best in my garden. This is not a good year for tomato plants, probably because the soil was so dry in the beds for so long, they just didn't size up. I'm thinking this bed may have had a tiny bit more of my old soil, which had been amended for several years with compost and manure and things like that. So that's the only thing I can think of as to why this particular tomato did so much better than all my other ones. But if we squeeze in there, I see a little bit of red. So I am going to pick that. This is the tomato that had a huge issue with germination. I was trying to get it to germinate for years. I'm actually thinking I'm not even going to eat this tomato. Well, maybe I am going to eat this tomato. You know what? I am going to eat this tomato. It needs to ripen up just a tiny bit more, I think. It is kind of orangey red. So I'm going to leave it on the kitchen counter for a day or two to ripen up, taste it. If I really, really like it, then the next couple of tomatoes that I take off of this, I'm going to save seeds from. So here's our basket so far. My beans are in a separate basket. And now I am going to go to the cucumber patch. This year I only have 4 cucumber plants and we are inundated with cucumbers. It's awesome. So let's see what we got. I actually see a cucumber way back here. I think this is called green finger. I think this is a little bit more mature than what I would normally pick this at. I have picked a few cucumbers from here and I have to say they are actually really, really good. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not, because I think this year, considering how successful all the other cucumbers have been, this one has gotten a good shake. I gave it lots of room this year compared to in the past where I've kind of squished my cucumber plants together, and I just don't think the productivity is there for me to keep it. Although I have to say it is a delicious cucumber. It is one of those that's virtually seedless. This is what I call a slicing cucumber or a snacking cucumber, where you just basically eat it like this. And yeah, so the jury's still out on as to whether or not I'll keep this. At this stage, I'm thinking it's probably going to be a no, just because my other cucumbers that I grow are equally delicious, but much more productive. So this guy here is Summer Dance, and it is one of my go-tos. And I'll just harvest that. And as well, delicious, very productive, very small seeds or few seeds. Oh, there's like bees everywhere right now. This is awesome. So that one is definitely a go-to. I am having a few issues with pollination. Like this guy, you can kind of tell when there's kind of a weird pollination thing happening where you get like a skinny end and a long end. I'm just going to keep this one here, see what it does. But, oh, I see my little bee friend pollinating my cucumbers. One of the most productive cucumber plants I have is a pickling cucumber, and it's called Garden Sweet. And oh, these are way big. Oh, I mean, I literally picked cucumbers 3 days ago, and so this is Garden Sweet. I would rather not pick it at this size. I would rather pick it a tiny bit smaller. They're not tiny, definitely, and this one is not over mature. It's still great for pickling. I see a few in here. Oh, a few monsters. This, I think, is basically verging on over mature, but I don't care. I'm still going to pickle it. The seeds in here are probably pretty big. So what I might do is when I cut it up to pickle it, I'll just remove some of those seeds first. You would think I hadn't been out here in a week. by how many of these there are. This is a super productive plant, by the way. So this is more the size. I mean, this is a kind of wonky shaped one, but this is more the size that I would want to harvest at. This, after not harvesting for how many days, like 3 or 4 days, super productive. And delicious too, which obviously is what's most important. Another one, hiding. See, this is what happens. You pick it, you don't see the hiding ones. The very last variety I'm trying is one called Tasty Treat. And I can honestly say, I know right now I'm not going to be growing this one again, because this one is leaning heavily, I mean, towards malformed fruit. I think I've gotten one actual straight cucumber from it, but this is what I'm actually harvesting most of the time. It's tasty, but no more tasty than anything else that I've grown, and it's this kind of just does not make it as useful. It just seems as if these have a hard time getting pollinated. I'll show you a shot of what these look like. So here's a couple, and you can like already see, look at this. There's another one here like that. So while it is tasty, just like the other varieties I'm growing, it's not going to be on the grow list after this. My basket is a little overloaded with cucumbers, but there's not a whole lot more that I want to harvest actually right now. But I do have this beautiful parsley that I think I am going to harvest some, because what I like to do with parsley is I'll harvest a bunch, I'll wash it, and then I actually put it in like a little vase in water in the kitchen, and I can cut from it all week long, and it's already washed and dried. I don't know about you, but one thing I hate about parsley in terms of picking it fresh right when I need it is that after you wash it, it sticks to everything. And I prefer to chop dry parsley, and it's a little bit of a pain in the butt washing it and drying it, and you know, with a towel, it never gets totally dry. So that's what I prefer doing. And because I am putting it in a vase with water, I do like cutting all the way down to the bottom so that I have a nice long stalk to kind of sit in the, and it's not really a vase, it's more like a glass, like a water glass, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to harvest a little bit from each of them. I have 4 here, so instead of harvesting everything just from one. And there we go, a beautiful bouquet of parsley. And this is just flat leaf parsley. It's Italian flat leaf. It's my favorite. And in fact, this is from seed that I saved myself. Parsley is a biennial, and every once in a while, not every year, but sometimes I'll leave it in the beds and it will come back the following year. Then it will bolt and flower, and I'll just save the seed from it. The thing with dill is once you sow it, you have it forever, because it just pops up, in my garden anyway, voluntarily, almost like a weed, but a very welcome weed. So I'm just going to harvest a few of these umbrels here to add to my pickles. And I am going to harvest a few of the leaves as well. And here's my rather sad tomato patch. Sad, sad. But there are a few tomatoes to be harvested. Here is one. And this one is a Chico 3, and it's a paste tomato. And this is one of the ones that I got the seeds from when I was in Portugal a few years ago. This one is always one of the first to ripen as well, and it's very productive. This is just the first one, but there are a lot of tomatoes on here. This one here is Bloody Butcher, and oh, I see one that's cracked, probably from the rain we had. We had quite the storm a couple of days ago. So it's a little bit cracked, but that's okay. We can still eat it. These are delicious, and this is actually quite small for what they normally are. Normally, I would say they are at least twice as large. I would consider them a salad tomato. This almost looks like more of a large cherry, but that is not normal for them. It's been an atypical year for tomatoes for me, and I'm just taking what I can get at this point. I am going to harvest this one as well. I have another one that's kind of half green, half yellow. I'm still going to leave that one on, but this one I think I'll harvest and have it ripen up in the kitchen. There are quite a few Mexico midget here to harvest, so I'm just going to grab all of these, and these will, once I wrap up this video, yeah, these will basically be gone, as in eaten up. This one is super ripe and ready to go, and it's gone. There. Small little handful, but you take what you can get. Not every year is a stellar year. Apple yellow is, oh, so many beautiful ones ready to pick here. I first grew this one a year or two ago, and it is a favorite. Like, it's a mainstay in the garden now. Every year I'll be growing it. It's so delicious, productive, everything you want in a tomato. Relatively disease resistant too. I do see a few signs of possible early blight on some of these tomatoes. Not on the tomatoes, sorry, on the tomato plants. But this one is still looking beautiful. The kale is looking okay. I think now that we have drip irrigation in, it's going to do a lot better. So quite a few holes, but I don't know. This has kind of stymied me because I don't see any caterpillars anywhere, and I don't see any caterpillar poop either. And usually you see caterpillar poop if there are caterpillars, and I don't see anything. The other culprit possibly is slugs, but it's been so dry here. I'm finding it hard to believe that I have this many slugs that will do this much damage. And in fact, the hostas, which are usually the first to be inflicted by slugs, are not doing badly at all. They are pretty much hole free, which is a shocker at this time of year. So the last one that I can think of, possibly, is earwigs. That's what I'm thinking is doing this damage. Nothing we can really do about it, and the holes, other than cosmetically, they really don't affect anything in terms of flavor. You don't even realize there's holes in it once you cook these up. So I'm just going to pick a few leaves. I think I am going to pick for today and possibly tomorrow or the next day a few leaves of the Russian kale, which is down here. I have white Russian and red Russian, as well as red Ursa in this area, plus a few leaves of the lacinato kale, which is here. So I have a little bit of the lacinato kale. When it starts getting a little bit yellowish, I mean, you can still use it, but for me, it's a tiny bit past its prime. So I'm probably just going to compost this one. These here are gorgeous. This is the white Russian kale. This here is red Ursa. And I'll just come in and cut all the lower leaves, whether or not I'm using them. Because if they're a little bit past their prime, I want to get them off the plant anyhow. I don't want them sitting here and decaying and attracting slugs. And this is red Russian. I'm not going to harvest a whole bunch. I don't really need a ton of this right now. So I'll probably just harvest a few of these. I mean, these leaves are humongous. Look at this size of this guy. Humongous and gorgeous and tasty too. I think that is a good amount of chard for today. I'm going to harvest a few of these asters as well while I'm here. Isn't that gorgeous? This one is the king size formula mix. So it's all different colors. Aren't those pretty? This one here is actually Bengal rose. It's gorgeous. I have some scabiosa here that I'm also going to cut from. And this one is Black Knight. And why not a couple of straw flowers too while I'm here? I'll do this one here. This is going to end up opening a bit more, but these are perfect. Just a little bit of sunshine and happiness for inside. Probably will go on the kitchen table. I just have to get some greenery to go with this, but I'll pick that later. And before I wrap up, I thought I'd give a little update on the carrots that I sowed, and they have all come up. I took the agribon off a few days ago, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, and they are all coming up. I've already come in and done some thinning, and I've also done some transplanting, which I've never done before, because I'll give you an example. Here, for example, you see all of these coming up really close together. So in this case, I might take these two and just gently loosen the soil a little bit just around the roots of these, pull them up, and then plop them in a spot that was free. And that's what I did for some of these. In this case, I'm not going to have to do it because this is pretty evenly sown, so I can just thin out, and I will have a seedling every 2 to 3 inches. However, there were a couple of cases where I had big gaps where it was like 4 or 5 inches and there was no seedling. So in that case, I tried to do it. I don't know how well that's going to turn out. I mean, carrots are a root crop, and that can probably end up meaning I'm going to have sort of wonky looking roots, but I thought I would give it a try and see how that works out. So I hope you enjoyed this harvest video. I have a lot of work to do now. The thing with harvesting is it's not just the picking, it's also the getting it into the kitchen, getting it cleaned, getting it put away, yada, yada, yada. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Bye.